This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Hello, and before we get started with this episode of Cooking with Grief, we've got to quickly shill you some product, as we've long wanted to, but now someone's finally going to give us money to do it. Just out of interest, we've been friends a long time. How hairy are your balls?
Oh, it's an absolute nightmare, mate.
Oh.
A thick, luscious carpet. It's like a shampoo advert down there.
I hate you. I hate this. And yet, it is also a perfect segue into our lovely, glorious sponsors, manscaped.com. Now, if you go there and use the promo code BIGHEADS, you'll get 20% off and free shipping. And you might be wondering what Manscaped sells because you haven't taken into account the last 50 seconds of this conversation. And I will tell you that they sell grooming products for below the belt. So, for example, Chris, you'll be, from the sounds of it, very interested to learn about the Lawnmower 2.0.
I am. Tell me more.
Twice as good as the previous lawnmower, with skin-safe technology to protect your wrinkly ballsack from getting nicked. Specifically yours.
Good. I'm glad.
And after you've done that with your new smooth nads, you douse them in some crop preserver anti-chafing ball deodorant.
You know what? I might do that.
And if you want to do that, dear listener, then remember, use the promo code BIGHEADS, that's BIGHEADS, all one word, for 20% off and free shipping if you go to manscaped.com. So remember, BIGHEADS, 20% off, free shipping, manscaped.com.
Chris and I thank you, and your balls will also thank you.
And our balls thank you too.
On with the show.
Okay, what am I doing in the podcast? This is my turn to host. I should think of something clever to say. Really should have written this down. Get into character. I'm a podcast. This is a podcast. La la dee, la la da. Alright, what episode are we doing?
This is 34.
34, alright, cool. Let's think of something. You know what, screw it. Let's do it live.
Judas!
Hello, and welcome to episode... Was it 34?
It is episode 34.
Welcome to episode 34 of Cooking with Grief. We are professionals, and we're also flexing our acting chops, because you probably thought that was entirely unscripted, but it wasn't. I'm Chris, and as ever, I am joined by my wonderful co-host at Cooking with Grief, Chris.
Hello, that is me. I am the other Chris.
He is the other Chris. How are you, Chris?
I'm very well, thank you. / broadly fine. How are you, other Chris?
I am also broadly fine, which is the most we can hope for. Thank you, listeners, for joining us once again as we scream into the void, hoping that both of you enjoy this. The way the podcast works, if you are a new listener, is each have thought of 2 random and strange topics to bring to you. True facts that will titillate the mind and tickle your funny bone. Neither of us have heard what the other one's going to say, so we're as shocked as you are. And without further ado, let's go to Chris for our very first topic.
So Chris, for my first topic, I'll start off with a question as I always do. At work, or otherwise, are you good at delegating tasks?
As in, do I like to pass the buck? Yes. I don't actually have a lot of scope to delegate tasks, unfortunately. Nobody trusts me with power for reasons I can't understand.
Yeah, and for reasons that are in no way borne out by the back catalogue of this podcast. I suppose the downside to delegating unpleasant tasks is that you're ultimately responsible if they're done poorly. And this story is about one such delegated task that had dire consequences. We're back in our old conversational stomping ground of China. And there's a businessman called Tan Yo Hui who was, as one does in the seedy world of business, looking to triumph over his competitors by having them retire prematurely and permanently. Because there was another businessman called Wei Mo who Tan Yo Hui decided to hire a hitman for. The cost of this hit was 2 million yuan, which is about £250,000 sterling, or just shy of 300,000 American freedom dollars. Not a bad price for hiring an assassin, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the going rate for an assassin is.
No, they're right. But
I mean, I know with most things, like the American version, like with an iPhone or something like that, like the American version costs X amount, and then there's usually a cheaper Chinese version. So I don't know if it's the same with Assassins. Like, is a $300,000 Chinese assassin, probably on par with a $1 million American one?
I don't know. In my obviously usual thorough research, I didn't actually look into the sort of the standards of various nationalities' assassins, but it was more just a sort of a framing device, so people had an idea of what 2 million yuan was. But glad we picked it apart so meticulously. But having scoped out the job, this assassin, who was hired for 300,000 American dollars, did what any decent sort of middle management does, and decided that the job wasn't really worth the effort, and he outsourced the killing to a second hitman for half the original price.
That does add some context to the going rate of an assassin, because obviously this guy paid 300,000 and there was somebody willing to do it for 150, then that businessman got
shafted.
Yeah, got robbed. Yeah.
And the first guy is basically just an assassin talent scout at this point. He's taking half the money for making one phone call. So the second assassin had a look around and then decided he didn't want to do it either. So he subcontracted the hitman to a third hitman, who in turn passed it on to a fourth, who hired a fifth assassin to get the dirty work done.
Oh, so sure. I mean, was it halving in value every time? No,
yeah. So we're now down to 125,000 yuan, or a measly £13,000 British sterling. Don't get me wrong. Like, that's still, it's not an amount to be sniffed at in terms of if it was your budget for Monster Munch or a Greg's Steak Slice. But it's not exactly a lot of money to take another person's life.
No.
In terms of the sort of risk to reward ratio, a measly $250,000 wasn't exactly sort of valuing his services and talents. And that's exactly how the subcontracted hitman felt. So he got in touch with the original target and said, look, I've been hired to kill you by a guy who was hired to kill you by a guy who was hired to kill you by a guy who was hired to kill you by a guy who was hired to kill you by one of your competitors. How about you fake your own death, give me $1 million yuan, and we'll just call the whole thing off.
And did he?
Well, yeah, the businessman says, sure, I wasn't busy this afternoon. I'll fake my own death and, move to the countryside or whatever. But they did a pretty sloppy job of faking his death. It turns out slipping on a banana peel and then having a sort of comically large anvil fall on you only really works in the cartoons. And the plot was discovered when a missing persons report came out and the police found both the businessman and the fifth generation of hitmen, who decided to come clean and basically dob his four fellow hitmen in. They were all tried for the attempted murder of this guy, all in one courtroom.
Makes sense. I mean, they're basically Russian dolls at this stage.
It'd be great if they actually decreased in size as well as sort of wage packet until the fifth guy was about 6 inches tall and got in through the drain pipe.
I don't know what he'd do then, because it'd be like, right, I've climbed in through the drain pipe, I'm ready to kill this guy, and then be like, I'm 6 inches tall. I mean, I can't pick up anything that would actually damage him. I can't strangle him.
You could choke him with your leg.
Oh, could he though? Well, I mean, he's probably more in danger of being eaten. Oh, 6 inches actually.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on how good what was called Waymore's gag reflex was.
The police declined to comment on that.
So that's my story of how sometimes delegating tasks can lead to your eventual imprisonment. I mean, I'll be honest,
yes.
It's not exactly the sort of delegation I have to do at my job, but it's still a worthy cautionary tale to bear in mind next time you ask someone to do something for you. If that thing is kill someone.
Well, I mean, obviously the moral of the story as well is, thoroughly vet all your subcontractors.
Yeah, because the first guy was getting paid the most, and you've got to question what was so hard about the job, or so. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
If you're a hitman,
check that he's a trustworthy source, or not source, but employee.
Yeah, get some other reviews. Look, do call up his references. So I was very, very impressed with his last kill. super clean.
Before you're going to say, like, ring up his victims and be like, no answer. All right, well, they must be dead.
Well, I mean, that would
Sounds good.
also work. If you phone up someone he's meant to have killed and he says, like, who? Chances are he's pretty shit at his job.
What's the punishment for not killing somebody? Because, you know, like, some of them are, like, obviously, like, the first guy wanted somebody dead, so that's an obvious crime.
Yep.
Maybe the subcontractors, you know, they know, you know, obviously, they're not carrying it out themselves, but they are also soliciting a hitman to kill somebody. But the final guy's crime is, you know, basically just shenanigans. And I don't want to live in a world where shenanigans are a crime.
I would draw a legal distinction between shenanigans and conspiring to fake someone's death, or indeed being a hitman in the first place.
Death. Is there any proof that he's a hitman? Just a lot of fake deaths and Wile E. Coyote schemes.
I don't know. I didn't find the actual what he was sentenced with, but I imagine like part of him coming clean was basically holding up his hands and saying, "Look, I've killed people before." I don't know. I imagine Chinese courts are fairly scary places.
Yeah, I can imagine so. I can imagine they don't faff about with wigs like we do.
That's the only limit. Like if British judges took off the wigs, oh fuck, he's serious.
Yeah, it's like taking the gloves off. Rolls his gown sleeves up, takes his wig off, and it's like, right, you're going down.
So that's the end of my first topic. Chris, why don't you tell us what your first one is?
My topic actually takes us to Hollywood, which is somewhere we have rarely ventured on this podcast, nor indeed in real life.
Apart from in our semi-regular feature, The Kurt Russell Fact.
Which, obviously, I hadn't forgotten.
No, definitely not.
Are you, and I assume you are, but familiar with James Dean?
EA or double E?
EA.
Yeah.
Who's double E?
Isn't he a porn actor?
I don't know. I guess so.
You know,
Smut.
You know it's bad when you know the names of the male porn actors.
Yeah, that's a sign you've been watching for a long time. That means you've been watching the credits.
Whose cock was that? I'd love to know. Oh yeah, he did the cock work on Star Wars. Sorry, yes. So James Dean, the Hollywood icon and actor.
Yes, exactly. Who is basically famous for two things, really: looking cool and being dead. One of those things is now going to be, well, removed or retconned. You see, obviously, he died in a car crash in 1955, and yet he is being cast in a new film called Finding Jack, which hasn't even started filming yet. And basically what happened is his family sold his image rights to a production company, and they're going to bring him back to life through the miracle of visual effects.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of actors have been complaining about this, saying, you know, obviously, well, it just means now that any actor can be resurrected after their deaths, you know. It's not really a true performance, because obviously he's dead. So it's just like...
Yeah.
I don't know how it... Is it somebody else basically just wearing, you know, effectively wearing a mask, if you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wearing a flesh suit. Because they've done it before for sort of small things. In Star Wars, they resurrected Peter Cushing in Rogue One. And they had an actor basically play him and say his lines, and then they had some weird digital version which looked really quite creepy.
Yeah.
And they've been de-aging actors now recently. Marvel have been doing it a lot, you know, for flashback scenes. They just digitally de-age characters, make them look like they did 20 years ago. But yeah, it's weird, because now basically nobody's safe, if you know what I mean. Like, it's sort of like the deep fakes.
Yeah.
Again, you know, it's got to a stage where soon nothing is real.
Yeah, you won't ever truly belong to you anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Once somebody has your image, they can do what they want.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first time I sort of heard anything like this was, do you remember, like, it's one thing to bring out, like, an album of, like, unreleased material or, like, off-takes from, like, studio albums and stuff like that, but do you remember that Elvis song that they brought out where they were just using fragments of his voice to sing a new song?
No, I didn't see that, but
It must have
I can
been
imagine.
must have been 10 years ago, maybe. And
Oh, wow.
and even then, it's just so okay. Maybe you could sit someone down, like sort of, and not tell them all of that, and just say, "Here's a new Elvis song. What do you think?" But there's something so cynical about that. Just seeing people as products, and after the death, just sort of cashing in on them.
Yeah, well, like I say, it's basically a remix of real life, but to the point of, if you could get one word, a recording of one single word, or, like multiple instances of different words, you can recut it into them saying anything.
Yeah.
If somebody read out a dictionary, you could then put their words in any order.
Yeah.
Make anybody say anything. It's like that, but yeah, apparently there's the people who own or who represent James Dean's family also represent a lot of other families of dead celebrities. So yeah, this will be the first of many.
It's one thing to own the rights to say their intellectual property, so, like writers who don't want their sort of anything coming out posthumously or stuff like that, but to actually legally own someone's likeness and voice and mannerisms, it's so creepy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it won't put every actor ever out of work, but it does seem like you're going to narrow the pool. Because, I mean, I've not seen it, but there's that new Scorsese film. Oh, it's The Irishman, and it's got De Niro and Pacino in it. And they de-aged them. I'm not sure if it's just for part of the film or for all of it. I mean, De Niro got his, I don't know if it was his big break as such, but, one of his first major critically acclaimed roles was Godfather Part 2, where he plays a young Marlon Brando. And it's like, nowadays, he would never have got cast, because it would have just de-aged Marlon Brando and just had, 25-year-old Marlon Brando walk around, who probably would have still been too lazy to learn his lines.
Yeah.
So it's like we made a robot copy of Marlon Brando, but he's just sitting in his trailer refusing to come out.
It's not a solution to the problem of, we keep trying to make a film, but there are literally no actors left.
Yeah.
It's like, We've searched through all the bars and taxis of Hollywood, and there's no one who moved here wanting to be an actor. This is insane. We're gonna have to reanimate all dead ones. And like you say, if you can, in 50 years' time, if you can get Tom Cruise in his prime, then why would you hire someone new to be the new Tom Cruise?
Yeah, exactly. It's just, like I say, it's not going. Obviously, because it's going to cost money and whatnot, it's going to limit that. It's not like they're going to replace every single actor, but, like big stars and stuff, it's like, yeah, we can get Pacino now. We can get young Pacino, old Pacino, any Pacino, even once he's gone.
Yeah.
And also, multiple, they won't be limited now by scheduling. It's like, oh, well, one film wants him and another film wants him. Well, you can do both. We can reanimate both. I don't know, and like I say, a lot of actors are coming out against it because, they feel like it's their craft.
Yeah, it's not acting anymore, is it? It's...
Yeah. And you never know, what decisions someone would take. Can it do originality? It's a famous example, whether it was Heath Ledger. Obviously died just after Dark Knight came out, and actually midway through another film. Obviously, his famously was people howled at the casting of him because he was basically rom-coms and light-hearted fare before, and Brokeback Mountain, before the Joker. And then he comes out and does this crazy voice and mannerisms and all that for the Joker.
Yeah.
Which, if you were just recreating him from his previous work, would never have done that left.
Basically Owen Wilson.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Batman, wow.
Wow. Because that's the thing is, Heath Ledger died during the filming of The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, didn't he?
Yes.
And,
yes, exactly.
Hey, check me out with a pop culture reference. And
I know.
And the way they got around that by having several different people play that character, so it's in every sort of dimension, I guess, is a different representation of the same character. It'd be super weird if you knew he died and they just sort of edited him in, just stitched together with other lines. It's really
yeah. Well, they actually did that in Gladiator. Oliver Reed died because he was apparently a massive alcoholic, he died mid-filming. It's actually, it came out in 2000, so it was a very sort of early attempt at that. They CG'd him a bit. They basically had to write in a death scene he was supposed to survive the film, but they had to write in a death scene because he hadn't finished recording everything. And then they made his last lines, he says shadow and dust, which was actually just from an earlier scene from a take they hadn't used. And just put the voice in and then shot a body double from behind being stabbed to death. But yeah, they had to do that. They had to get around him dying sort of mid-filming on set.
Yeah. But I mean, at least then they're still taking words he said consensually in a script. It's not like it went like shadow and death. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like not that the James Dean thing will be like that, being like, "Hey everyone, I am James Dean."
Well, obviously, yeah, and also it's slightly different. If somebody dies midway through filming, you've got to do something. You can't just all of a sudden stop appearing in scenes with no acknowledgement whatsoever.
Yeah, or worse, if he died on camera and just sort of panning away from it and fading away.
Okay, and over to you for your second topic.
Okay, so for my second topic, Chris, cast your mind back to the final few weeks at university. Okay. Arguably the most stressful time during the years of study, with deadlines looming, exams bearing down on the calendar, all-night library sessions resulting in nothing but anxiety, and an empty pot noodle container. How did you cope during those stressful times?
Wu-Tang Clan.
Okay, wasn't expecting that answer.
Oh, go on. What else do you want me to say? Alcohol and furious masturbation. Is that a better answer? Does that suit your agenda?
Thought you were going to say despair and a wank. Yep. Okay, so universities these days have tried lots of ways to lessen the stressful impact of exams for students, from petting zoos to campus dogs you can pet.
No, I'm going to stop you a second. What did you do then? If my answer was so out there that I listened to music, go on, Chris. What did you do?
Oh, well, I in the sort of preface, it was anxiety and a pot noodle, chicken and mushroom flavour.
Oh, fair enough.
I mean, the real answer is I stayed up late lots of nights and thought, why didn't I start on this sooner?
Fair enough. I won't call that coping, but...
Okay, that's true.
Anyway.
I mean, I cope the way an ostrich copes, with its head in the sand. Okay, so universities these days have tried lots of ways to lessen the stressful impact of exams for students, from petting zoos to campus dogs you can stroke and calm down, from crying chambers to on-campus morphine drips. But this week I learned about one unique approach. At Radboud University in the Netherlands, the student chaplaincy runs what they call a purification grave.
What?
As the name suggests, a dug grave on campus in which students can lie for extended periods of time.
That sounds creepy.
They get to reflect on all manner of life's most profound questions, like how do I escape the feeling of being so stressed that my bones might break, or why did I do a degree in flamingo imitation studies in the first place, or how do I turn all of this anxiety into a commercially viable comedy podcast?
But how does lying in a grave help?
I don't know. It's just
I feel like that would add to my anxiety. I'd be like,
fuck,
I'm stressed.
I'm going to get buried alive.
And I'm about to be buried alive. I was being reminded of my own mortality.
Yeah, not only am I super stressed, I now know that this has an end point. Yeah, I don't know why they did it, but apparently they thought it would help reduce stress, just calm down, chill out in a freshly dug grave.
Hey, did it work?
Well, I didn't interview anyone personally. It wasn't exactly popular, but it's definitely weird, if that counts.
Yeah, that does count. It's weird.
So they had a few rules: that you can't take a book or your phone in with you to the purification grave to sort of distract you. You've got to lie there with your thoughts. But it said nothing about lube or a doner kebab or a Elmo toy. One or the other, not
what toy?
All three. Elmo.
Oh, Elmo. I thought you said the elbow toy, and I was like, what? A toy for your arm? What?
Or a sort of a stuffed Guy Garvey who let you pull the string out and it sings One Day Like This.
I mean, this is probably a window into my soul, but I feel like being alone with my thoughts is the least relaxing thing I can do.
Oh yeah, it's the greatest sort of terrifying ordeal.
No,
it's why
solitary confinement is a thing.
Yeah,
The man alone with his own thoughts, and is not a happy man when he comes out.
No, it's why we need constant content like Cooking with Grief, available wherever you listen to your podcasts,
Exactly.
or the greatest hits of the Wu-Tang Clan. According to the website, they provide pillows and a mat because you want to be comfortable when in a shallow grave, confronting your own mortality.
Mm-hmm.
But you do have to book in a slot from Monday to Thursday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m, so no late night.
I wonder why Fridays were... I mean, like, being close to a weekend is one thing, but I wonder why Fridays were...
If you've got that Friday feeling, maybe you don't want to spend it in a shallow grave. You want to instead be thinking about, well, like you say, the weekend. And there is currently no waiting list. Surprise, surprise. I feel like perhaps we've already touched on this, but do you think it'd work for you, or would it just make you feel deeply depressed?
I don't think it would help. I mean, if I'm going to lie on my own with my thoughts, I'd rather be somewhere comfier than a grave.
I mean, they provide a pillow.
Great.
And I hate to go crude with this. I mean, who am I kidding? It's the very spine of this podcast. But I don't know. All right, so I don't know what it was like at your uni. We went to different unis, but there was not a tradition exactly, but definitely an ambition for people to have sex, like before they graduated, in like say the library or like one of the classrooms they've had it all year, and have sex on campus basically. So knowing what students are like, I guarantee people have fucked in the grave.
Almost certainly.
Like drunks have thrown up on it. Bare minimum, someone got fingered in the purification grave.
Nice.
And that's not a euphemism.
I obviously don't hang out with the
cool kids.
With the cool kids, yeah. I don't know where people were having sex at my uni. I was in a long-term relationship, so I didn't need that.
But it can get stale. Maybe need a shallow grave to spice it up.
Maybe we should have. Maybe we should have. I don't know. Had sex on the Chancellor's desk.
Yeah, maybe. Alright, so what would you have liked to see, and what would have genuinely, other than a listening booth or seeing the Wu-Tang Clan live apparently?
No, I would have hated that. Too many people.
Oh yeah, you don't like crowds. An intimidating gig to go to if you're the only one. What would you have liked to have seen on campus to sort of help everyone?
I've said this, if I was a billionaire, I'd get a room like this in my house. Is, just like a nice room full of like satisfyingly breakable objects. You just pick up, throw it at the wall, watch it smash, get out your system, go about your day.
Yeah, so like lots of sort of like vases,
glass,
mirrors,
yeah, maybe some like things on the wall, but then like some like sturdy, not bowling ball, that'd be too heavy. Oh yeah, no, maybe a bowling alley thing with like some paintings at the far end. Destroy something beautiful. Yeah,
I mean, isn't that basically having sex in a grave?
Right, what would you have?
I'd like a giant shredder in which you could put textbooks and stuff you no longer needed. I think that'd just be cathartic. Yeah, you come out the exam, or like, you've got all your notes and you're just like, fuck, I'm done with that module. Just and then
you find out you got resets and you're like, shit. I regret all of this.
Yeah. You got the shreddings, and then you could frame it and then put it into your breakable room, and then you smash your shreddings.
Yeah. There you go.
What I thought was a mistake was the student union handing out there was these short-lived things like, so you got energy drinks now, but they were literally like a shot's worth of liquid, but it contained an obscene amount of caffeine, and they just walk around the library giving them out free. So you just have a fucking panic attack at 1 a.m. and then not be able to sleep for 2 days.
I remember thinking like energy drinks didn't really affect me that much, and then I had two like just before an exam, and then afterwards when I was walking home, so about an hour, 2 hours later, whatever it was, walking home, decided that walking was taking too long, and I ran 2 miles home. I had my rucksack. I was just wearing jeans and like shoes, but not, not like running trainers or anything. And I just ran home.
The subsequent depression after 2 energy drinks is just it's such a bleak time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, best years of your life. If you're one of the cool kids fucking fingering someone in the grave. So that's the end of my second topic. Chris, why don't you round us out with your second one?
Have you ever felt the need to pray to the Lord our Saviour?
Yeah. Can't say I've done it in recent years or particularly regularly throughout my life. There have been times in my life when I've done it though. It didn't work.
Maybe that's because you're not doing it the right way. And, the right way is to spend £85 on a particular gadget.
That's where I was going wrong. I was just asking for a speedboat.
Oh, well, there you go, see. No, so what's happened is the Vatican have released a, like Fitbit?
Yeah.
Like those fitness trackers and whatnot. Yeah, well, they've done one of those, only it's rosary beads. Or the e-rosary bracelet. And they basically, rosary beads, like that Catholics use to, they sort of run them through their fingers and...
Yeah, and put them up the bum.
They're different beads.
Are they? Oh.
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh,
I mean, there might be some they might be able to get multi-use ones.
Crossover, get it?
Crossover. No. You don't want to shove this one up your ass, though, because it also has a metal cross on it, about the size of a wristwatch.
You say metal cross, I say handle.
This is why your prayers didn't work, by the way.
Okay, yeah, fair point.
So you get these rosaries, and it goes around your wrist, and then to activate it, you got to make the sign of the cross, and then it's got like sensors in it. Bit like a Wii remote, and the tracks you making that symbol, and then it like activates, and it tracks your user's progress. Yeah, I don't know if it's competitive. Can you link? Like on Fitbits, you can upload your scores and stuff like that, and you can put it on Strava and see who's ran more this week or whatever. So do you reckon you can?
Mary has prayed 362 times.
Yeah, I wonder if it says like how many successes as well. Mary's prayed 362 times, but has only got one response. Hilda has prayed only 100 times, but she's got 2 responses.
I mean, I think it depends what you're praying for. If you're praying for very little to change, it's going to be more successful than my request for a speedboat. So, like with other like smart devices, they can be voice activated. So it's like, hey Alexa or okay Google or whatever it is. What's this one? Is it like, all right, Jesus, and then you start praying? Or is it...
well, I don't know. It only says that it's activated by doing the sign of the cross. It could... Maybe it works if you just say spectacles, testicles, wallet and watch. Maybe you don't have to do the action.
Never eat shredded wheat.
Well, it's probably not "You're right, Jesus," because it's probably not tuned to Mancunians. All right, Jesus.
It would be our Jesus.
Our kid.
You're right, our Jesus.
Our Jesus. It's good though. Apparently, it's water resistant, so you can also swim and pray.
Holy water resistant. Are they going to bring out like a competing sort of satanic model?
I mean, the Catholic Church probably isn't, but
yeah,
somebody might.
So are they manufacturing it?
Well, it's manufactured by a Taiwanese company, but it has the blessing, so to speak, of the Vatican.
Right, okay. This is from that Gospel according to Chiang Kai-shek.
What?
Let's move on.
Previous attempts to use technology to get more people engaged with the Catholic Church involved do you remember Pokemon Go? That brief moment when everyone was happy?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they tried releasing Follow JC Go. I mean, it's a bit wordy for a start, but you have to catch saints and Bible characters, which I don't know if that's the right way of going about things.
Do you want a King Herod in your Jesus deck?
No, probably not. This one, though, wasn't made by the Vatican, but the Pope is alleged to be a fan.
Good for him. How would you get the youth engaged in Christianity in a modern way?
Oh, I don't know, fire and brimstone.
Oh, you're going old school. You want to lure him
old
back
school,
in.
Yeah. It's got Old Testament.
You don't want to lure him in with a series of religious filters on Snapchat.
Hold your hands up and it gives you like holes in your hand. No, I wouldn't go that way. I'd go like, scare him straight.
Yeah.
I mean, you might be able to tell I'm not a religious man.
No, but it's good to have your theories. I'd bring out a line of religious granola and protein bars and things like that, and the tagline would be "Get your crucifix."
Nice. Or I'd have you can release some protein powder and call it like Jesus is the way.
I like that. Listeners, it was this moment that we decided that we should stop being a comedy podcast and move into the religious weightlifter crossover market.
Well, yeah, and I just remembered in that previous episode we
Rip Jesus?
told us about that Rip Jesus. Yeah, was it Korean?
Yeah.
Korean Rip Jesus. Yeah, I mean, he'd be the obvious spokesperson. Mascot.
It's rare to hear Jesus described as a mascot. And to the fact I can have a football team, is there like a sort of a fluffy Jesus mascot?
Less likely.
I hate away games there. You know, you go and you're hoping for a burger. It's fucking fish again. Such small portions as well.
Yep, the Vatican City has a national football team.
Oh right, what's it called? The Papal Panthers. Oh no, that's Carolina. But what's their team name? Is it Pope FC?
It's just called Vatican City.
Ah, that is disappointing. They've made so many opportunities there. He'd be rubbish in goal, wouldn't
he? Who would?
Jesus, fly right through his hands. I mean, he's got the stance right, but just
first match that Vatican was ever involved in was on the 7th of January 1521.
Wow.
Although it was that weird version, Calcio Fiorentino, which I think is that one where you basically kick the shit out of each other.
It's not very Christian. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
It's not very enlightened for the 16th century.
Once there are enough incapacitated players, the other teammates come and sweep up the ball and head to goal. So, literally the rules involve incapacitating your opponents.
So more akin to rugby then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and on that note, it's time to blow the final whistle on this episode of Cooking with Grief. I hope you found it enlightening, blessed, as painful as being crucified.
2 out of 3.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I won't ask which. Don't want to spoil the surprise.
As the Prophet Meatloaf said, it ain't bad.
Exactly. On that note, please make sure you share this with your friends and get as many downloads as possible, because we're obviously trying to shill you stuff and we'd like to turn a profit. Way! Oh god, I hate myself. But, yeah. Help me, Chris. Help me, Lord.
I'm glad that you turned to me first.
Yeah, well.
You know, the more realistic of your 2 options.
Yeah, I figured I'd get a faster response time from you.
We're literally on the phone.
Exactly.
So yeah, thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed it, please do
leave a review. And yeah, if you could share this with your friends. I know obviously we joke about shilling stuff, but we really would like to get as many listeners as possible. But mostly just because we want to spread the joy. As always, I've been Chris.
And as always, I have also been Chris.
And we'll see you next time for what will be our Christmas episode of Cooking with Grief. So tune in next time.
Yep, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I mean, that was awkward even for us.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Cooking with Grief. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to recommend it to a friend. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can email cookingwithgrief@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter. That's @cookingwithgrief. If you'd like to hear more episodes, then please subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you've got the time, then it'd be great if you could leave us a review on iTunes. Thank you.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's a Nerd
and Nerdette
from the Voice of Misery podcast. If you want a show that's about pretty much anything, it's a variety show about life, love, mental health, the pursuit of happiness, and a ton of different interviews going from Karen Parsons to Ava Devine and other various adult film stars or just random people on the street that I think are interesting. You should give us a shot. Voices of Misery podcast. Voicesofmisery.podbean.com, at Voices of Misery on Twitter, and Voices of Misery anywhere you can find your favorite podcast. Give us a shot if you're not easily offended.